time, so we'll kick things off. First and foremost, I just wanted to acknowledge the analysts here on the call from Lyra Technology Group. This is essentially a session for yourselves, talking about AI, the impact within the MSP community, what we're doing here at Pia and within the Lyra community as well with Accellis. So we've got Abby Dwight, the Chief Experience Officer from Accellis, joining us today. So thank you, Abby, for coming along and sharing your experiences as well.
Of course, glad to be here.
Excellent. So the purpose of today is really to give the analysts here at Lyra a bit of a playbook. You know, automation and AI can be a bit of a daunting subject. A lot of challenges are involved in it. People see it as a big, massive project or undertaking to transform an MSP. We want to dispel a few of those myths and give you and the team and your teams beneath you a really good solid playbook to select AI, roll it out, learn from some of the pitfalls, and then see some of the impacts, some of the metrics that are really driving change within the MSPs today. So on that note, we'll get started. So a little bit of background about myself. So I am James Allen. I'm the Executive Vice President here at Pia. I look after our strategic partnerships. I have been with Pia since inception. So for those of you who aren't familiar, Pia was born out of one of the largest MSPs in Australia, Virtual IT Group, and was one of the executives and investors in that company as well. I've been over in the States for the last 3 years, helping grow the footprint of the business and share AI and automation to the community over here. I wanted to start with a bit of a quote. There's a lot of talk around the community at the moment regarding AI. It's going to replace jobs, replace humans, replace MSPs. That's certainly not our take here at Pia, but I do believe that MSPs that are using AI are definitely going to be the ones that are going to exceed and excel and really see themselves as differentiators in the market. And I don't know if this is controversial. I'd like to get anyone else's take on this. Feel free to chime in. But this is where we see the MSP of the future, embracing AI, automation, and really taking charge into the industry. Abby, I'll get your take on that if you like.
Yeah, I think we're right in line with that. It's really, we believe that it's required now. That's how you maintain your competitive advantage at this point.
Yeah, competitive advantage is a really key thing. I think, and we'll talk to that as we go through how we can differentiate ourselves as MSPs by embracing technologies like this.
Yeah.
So a little bit about, I guess, who we are and what we do and why we do what we do. I'm going to go back to our MSP in Australia that I touched on. So we were growing very quickly. I ran sales and growth there for a number of years. And as we grew the MSP, we found ourselves hiring in a pretty linear fashion. Every 200 to 300 endpoints, we were throwing bodies at the help desk. That was our sort of endpoint per tech ratio. We were also losing out on that intimacy around when you scale your service delivery mechanism, which is the help desk. We sort of lacked and lost intimacy and consistency. And also we were trying to stay profitable because as you scale, become a big MSP, that profit margin is hard and challenging to maintain or even grow. So as our expenses grow, our bottom line, our top line expenses grew. If our expenses are growing in the same linear fashion and our biggest expense being the help desk there, our EBITDA would just be flatlining. So what we decided to do was focus our attention on the help desk. We built an AI model back in 2018, and that AI model we trained up on those help desk specific tickets, and it got very, very accurate on determining what was happening within the MSP. And from that analysis, we were able to do basically automate those low-hanging fruit. we did an analysis, that Pareto principle, understanding what the 20% of the tickets were, which was generating 80% of the noise. And from that, we were able to automate those tickets, onboardings, offboardings, password resets, and the impact became profound. We were able to scale our help desk, maintain consistency, and actually become more consistent, which we'll talk to today, and really increase our profits. That MSP is now one of the most profitable, largest MSPs in the country, and now we support and serve hundreds of MSPs globally here on the Pia platform, which essentially is an AI-powered automation platform ready to go out of the box, built by MSPs for MSPs. So that's a little bit about Pia. I wanted to focus this now on how we're helping the MSP communities. And like I said, give you all a playbook on one, what is, where do we see the importance of AI and automation inside the MSP? And how can we really embrace this technology and scale our business as well? So, Abby, I know you at Accellis were dealing with a couple of factors around, having that intimate service delivery, and you've always had that automation first mindset. I'd love to get your opinion on, some of the challenges here that we faced at VITG, and see if it correlates to what you were facing as well, and I guess give us an example or explanation of why you decided to move into this space at your business.
Yeah, I think really very similar. We just felt like we couldn't answer every problem with more people, and very similar, right? Like our revenue was going up, but if our expenses were and cost of goods sold were just in line with that revenue growth, we weren't getting any traction on EBITDA growth. So we started to feel like we really needed to think of different ways to solve problems from a money standpoint. And then honestly, some of it was about being better than our competition. So, one area that we leaned into really early on the automation side was new user onboards and terminations. We'd kind of built that ourselves because it was an area that we had continued to struggle in to get right over and over and over again. It was time consuming and it still wasn't right. Our competitors are struggling with that same thing. So we felt like, okay, if we can answer this problem in this space, that's a competitive advantage. So that's when one of the areas we dove into first, both from a money driving perspective, as well as we felt like it was going to make us better. And, that's kind of always the goal, is provide better service, more consistent service. And be able to repeat that process no matter who's at the service desk.
Yeah, and I think that's a really key point, is repeating that process no matter who's on the help desk, getting that ticket resolved the first time the right way. I think that's something that, as MSP owners, we all know that that's important, but we can take it for granted, and we often do. And when I talk to MSPs in the community, I often ask, when I'm presenting, like, who's lost a client over the last 12 months, and it's pretty consistent. Everyone puts their hand up. Mm-hmm. And the underlying issue, when we get to the bottom of it, is that death by 1,000 cuts. We forgot to decom a license, or out of the 22-step process for a new user onboarding, we missed 2 steps. That's right. And it's that loss of trust and that not meeting client expectations, which leads to clients churning out. So if we can really nail that and get that honed in on, we can effectively have, clients for the long term, have them for life.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's one of the biggest reasons, on the onboards and offboards, it's one of the biggest reasons companies leave MSPs, is because, when you don't get an onboard right, it's the first impression with the client or with the new employee, and it's a bad look. And, so these are things that matter immensely to our clients, and we have to be agents in helping them get it right and not be part of the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So I want to spend a little bit of time now, Abby, and basically going through your journey and talk to some of the things that you went through in an implementation perspective, because Look, RPA, when we're talking RPA, we're referring to robotic process automation. It's nothing new. In fact, it's been around in the MSP world for over 20 years. You guys were doing this, like you said, with RMMs or Power Automate. There's other tools out there. But where we look at this from a different lens here at Pia is we knew when we built Pia, not all MSPs have automation engineers or dedicated developers that can go and build, maintain, and version these challenging, platforms. So we decided to give it to our partners out of the box, having a lot of that work already done. So as to the, I guess, conception in market, when we're looking at something like an automation platform, typically we think this is going to take, 3, 6, 12 months to roll it out, start to get that ROI. I'd love for us to hear your story about how you went through that rollout, the time it took you guys to basically get it in there, get it up and running, and start to seeing that time to value.
Yeah. So we're about 6 months in, I think, to our relationship with Pia. It's been live for us for about 6 months. And we started to see value really pretty quickly. I think the onboard was easy to work through. We named a champion on our side. I think anything that you don't have someone in charge of is never going to get done. So it needs a champion. It needs somebody who believes in it, who is going to drive those initiatives and those goals through to fruition. So we did that on our side. We went into it kind of having already identified some low-hanging fruit. So we know what we wanted to implement first and what we really wanted as a return, where we felt like, okay, we can get these few things and get them done quickly, then it's a win for us. And then we'll continue to build on it over time. And then, just like some basic goals and deadlines, right? Like you have to start by starting. And that was for us, we set what we thought was very realistic goals and we just got started. And, there's a little bit, I think, at least for us, there's a little bit of a learning curve for our team that we had to make sure, I guess everybody had like the buy-in and the belief that this wasn't going to take their jobs, right? That's not what the goal was. And at least for us, that proof was in the pudding a little bit. Like it took a little bit of time to get people to believe, but we're there now. And now we're starting to, really say like, okay, what does phase 2 look like for us? What can we continue to build on? How can we continue to make this a really powerful tool for ourselves?
Yeah, that's a fantastic story, and it really goes in line with our best practice recommendations when we're talking to MSPs considering adopting a project or a platform like this. You guys did it really, really well. And where we see this work in the peer community is having that buy-in, having that cultural alignment from the top down, and then from the bottom up, really having that encouragement where we're not here to take people's jobs. We're actually here to empower you to do the things that you get excited to do. I had one of our partners, Trevor Bohannon from Tag National. He shared his story, and he basically said, I've got 10 people on the help desk that work here at the business. He said, I can guarantee you, no one woke up this morning and was like, yes, I'm jazzed to come in and go and reset some passwords today.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's what we're talking about here. We're getting rid of that mundane, the minutiae of the help desk, and then allowing them time to go and do the more fulfilling, more client-centric, proactive, productive work within the MSP.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And, I think you have in any organization people who are early adopters and they become kind of your internal champions and cheerleaders for these new initiatives. And then you have people who are just a little slower and they need to take their time and ease into it. But once you get beyond that, then I think you really start to see the power of the partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move on now to some of the metrics. Let's talk some of the impact that we've already seen in the short time. Like you said, we've only been in this partnership, gone live within 6 months. And when I spoke to yourself and Justin on the team, I was really impressed with where you guys are at today. So you want to take us through some of these and how it's impacting the day-to-day, your clients, and also your business?
Yeah. So it's changed. I think having PL has changed the way we look at some of our metrics, I guess, to start. So I think, that right now we're seeing that 35 to 40% of our tickets per day are touched by the PL automation. So that doesn't necessarily mean that there's no human involvement for us, but it means that the engineer is being assisted by the PL automation. And therefore, that's reducing the time it takes, whether it be for research, for the identification of the issue, or that they're not touching it at all. So what we see is that 35 to 40% is really representing the whole impact. So where engineers are still touching tickets and where they may not. And then we're seeing about 7 to 8% of our tickets where what we are calling now zero touch. So that no engineer is needing to touch them at all before they're getting resolved. And for us, that's really cool because, as we've been talking to our end users, what they really want is they want fast resolution and they want it to be easy. So, we always say like one of our goals is to be easy to work with. And what we're hearing from our clients is that means I don't want to wait, right? Like I have a problem, I need to resolve a problem immediately. So if that is, my password's not working and they can go in and we can automate that password reset and they don't necessarily have to wait for an engineer, that's a win for everybody. And they're back and working quickly. That interruption is minimized as much as possible. And so those zero touch resolution tickets we feel like have a really big impact, and we're watching that number really closely. Escalations are down. So as everybody who works in this industry knows, escalation engineers are expensive, and giving them the opportunity to not just have to solve complex problems as they come about, but be able to dig into the root cause and eliminate that problem in the future has been really substantial for us. This is a relatively new result of PIA for us, so we're really excited to see where this continues to go, as we can lean into this. Our backlog's down overall, again, because we are faster to resolve these issues. We can get through more tickets in a day. That drives our backlog down. We're still maintaining really high CSAT. So in that 97, 98 percentile is really great for us. And then our first touch resolution. So first touch is, that basically means that we are resolving that a user created issue on the first time that we would either reach out to them or that we interact with the user. One of the things that we all as MSPs know that users hate is like the back and forth, right? Like they don't want to wait for a phone call back while you research an issue. They don't want to be passed off to another engineer. They want to talk to one person one time and then they want to be done. And so to be able to drive first touch resolution up from the mid 60s to mid 80s is really, I think, important for our end users because they get that help that they need immediately.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And this is to the point we were talking about earlier around getting that ticket, resolving it the first time quickly. We were at New Charter's event earlier this year, and they had Matthew Dixon, who's written a couple of very, famous books within the client acquisition and retention space, The Challenger Sale being the most prominent book of his. But his research basically outlined that if we're meeting our clients' expectations, in this case, resolving those tickets the first time the right way, we're getting clients for life. So we just need to meet those expectations. And I love how that metric's changed a lot for you.
Yeah.
To the point you made earlier around we're assisting the technicians with the AI, that's what we're calling that automation or engineer assist mode.
Yeah.
We did a recent webinar with Ryan Barton there, and he basically uses the analogy of the technicians are on the battlefield, right? They're getting these tickets and they're knocking them down every day. And he said, if I can put a Mac suit on the battlefield and have my techs jump in it, why the heck wouldn't I? And that's what we're seeing here, where yes, we can resolve some of the tickets without a technician, which is fantastic, getting that instant resolution, but allowing those technicians to go through more in the day and get them done faster and accurately has a
Yeah.
big impact on the business as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think I saw a question. Do you want me to answer that or hold off to the end?
Jim, you're monitoring the Q&A,
Yeah.
so why don't you go?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of jump in here. Quentin, thanks for the question. We was asking for you, Abby. What were some of the things that you identified as the low-hanging fruit, quote unquote?
Yeah. A big one for us was user terminations. So because user terminations are often like very time sensitive, you have to get it right, right? Like if somebody's leaving under tough circumstances, like you have to be able to do that immediately. So that's a great example of one where our HR folks are now, like our clients' HR folks are now trained to go in and they can either schedule that user termination for 5 days from now, and it's just automatically going to run in the background. It's going to pull that Microsoft license, all those things. Or they can do it immediately. And if an engineer doesn't see it right that second, it's still getting done, access is cut. It's a big deal, I think, for our clients, just from a business perspective, and for us to know that that's getting done correctly. We use it a lot for like mailbox forwarding rules. Even like out of office, those type of requests, that it's just like our service desk doesn't necessarily want to be doing those things, but our clients can now go in and kind of self-service through those.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That was the same experience in our business. A user termination or a new user onboarding is such a critical ticket, but more often than not, we're giving it to level one or junior technicians to complete the task. And if we miss one of those steps or forget to decom a license, all hell breaks loose, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point. I actually want to throw it over to the analysts here on the call and get some feedback. You can drop it in the chat or you can sing out around some of the metrics that matter the most to yourselves. What are you seeing across the MSP portfolio that you're looking after? I've got a couple of examples here: CSAT, SLA compliance, ticket backlog, endpoint per tech ratios, or reactive endpoint hours per month. I'd love to get some feedback from the team here. And Jim, if you want to just share those insights, that'll be great.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, I think some of the things to add on here that I'd be curious about the Pia experience is, how many tickets are our technicians closing? I'd assume, it's quite a bit more with the first touch resolution going up. But then, yeah, if you could talk a little bit about maybe first touch resolution, CSAT, the amount of tickets or the time spent on each ticket, I think that could be helpful. And then I'd really like to get deeper into that root cause analysis. I know some of the more senior folks from the West region are on the call, and I think they might appreciate hearing how, this could free up some of their more senior folks to really provide better service in their, clients' environments.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll speak first to the like first touch resolution, how many tickets. It's interesting, and when you look at like how many tickets per tech is we saw that increase, right? But then there's also a certain level of tickets now getting done that have no technician associated with them. So then you also have this like automation basically like handles the ticket, and like, is that an engineer, is it partial, half full-time, half-time, part-time engineer, like that those tickets are getting done without any kind of engineer intervention, which I think is super interesting. And we had to kind of figure out like, how are we going to look at this? So that's where we're looking at those zero touch tickets as well. Our CSATs remained high throughout. And if anything, like we've seen a little increase in CSATs, and I think it's just because our response time is faster. And they're getting that immediate response back. We've also paired this with threads, so that's helped on the response time as well, because our chat numbers have gone up hugely. So between those two things happening together, we've seen a really a big impact on response time and resolution time. Our ticket backlog, I think, is really indicative of the fact that we're just getting more done in every day, right? So we like to see we call them our rapid response team, which is our frontline folks doing about 15 to 20 tickets a day. And now we're seeing them north of 20, which is great. We also have a fairly large staff aug group, and they're starting to lean into this as well for some of their tickets, and now they have less rolling over to the service desk, like when they need help, which is another great result for us, because anything that overflows is just more work for the service desk that they have to get done. What else did you ask? I'm sorry, there are a few questions in there and I feel like I'm missing one.
Just anything around like the root cause analysis, if you could share maybe a specific example of how the time has been freed up for the team to, get better into the environments and actually fix the problems before they happen.
Yeah, so before, because our backlog was so high, we were really using our escalation engineers to take those tickets and say, okay, like some of these may not have normally been escalations, but we need to get them done and we need to continue to drive response time. So as we have really seen less and less of that, our escalation engineers are able to spend more time on the tickets they were intended to do in the first place. So, for example, that may mean we had a client who had multiple locations throughout the country, and they were having ISP firewall tunnel issues. And the amount of time that it took to really truly like get into what was happening there, go site by site, tunnel by tunnel, work with our vendor on the firewall side, was an immense amount of time, and something that 6 months ago we probably just didn't have the ability to do. We would just keep reacting to those tickets as they came in. And at some point, clients don't want to put in tickets anymore, right? They just want the problem solved. So I think being able to give, and even just from a work satisfaction standpoint, like being able to truly solve a problem and not band-aid it is like, that's what everybody wants, right? Like they don't want to keep getting the same ticket opened and like, oh, this is happening again. Oh, this is happening again. It's frustrating for us. It's frustrating for the client. And again, this is like a fairly new one for us, but we're excited to see it continue to evolve, because it's a big deal for us. We've never been great at root cause analysis, and to be able to have time and space for it now feels like a big win for us.
Yeah, great. And I might also throw this question in there off the back of that, Abby, because it's something that we've certainly seen across the Pia partners, is by freeing up that time for the escalation engineers to continue to do that root cause analysis or proactive work. I'm curious if you're starting to see less tickets, like less problematic or repeat tickets that were being caused before. So what I'm seeing is, and I'm curious to see if this is the case at Accellis, is a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. By freeing up time, we can spend more time being more proactive, reduce the flow of tickets. Therefore, there's less tickets coming in. There's more time being freed up, and so it goes on. Are you seeing any of that in your business?
Yeah. So this is one like we've talked a lot about. We haven't figured out a great way to measure it yet. Just like, okay, like it's more than just like a reopened ticket. It's essentially like an entire like being able to identify that problem as a whole and then saying there's nothing associated with that problem anymore. So we anecdotally think, yeah, this is getting better, but we don't have we haven't figured out exactly what the metrics are to tie to it yet to kind of prove that out. We've looked at things like reopen tickets, but we think it's bigger than that. It's not necessarily just about like those single tickets being opened again. It's about the satisfaction of the client in the resolve of that issue as a bigger kind of item, if that makes sense. Especially because I think one of the things we're seeing in the MSP world is we get a lot of users who are just like not reporting problems anymore, right? Like they're like, oh, we'll just live with this because it's kind of a pain to open a ticket, or like I don't have the time to give to an MSP to really troubleshoot this. So they just like learn to live with the pain. And I think that for us as MSPs to be able to say, you don't have to live with this pain anymore because we've solved it at its root is really important to that ongoing relationship. And it really eliminates the death by 1,000 cuts, like you were speaking to earlier, right? Because every one of those unreported problems or every one of those unreported tickets is really just another cut and one we may not even know exists. So, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic insights there, Abby. All right, I want to pick back up to your rollout strategy at Accellis and share some lessons learned. You know, because there's sounds like there's some MSPs on the call, definitely some analysts. What recommendations would you give to other MSPs considering technology like this, and how would you have done things a little bit differently?
Yeah, so I think we went fast into some areas and slow into others. So I think if we could do it all over again, we'd probably go into the areas that are going to impact the client first. So smart forms, for example, that was something we kind of pushed back a little bit, but I think we would, if we had to do it again, we would push that forward. We've had really good responses from the forms from our clients. They like it. They like the ease. They think it's really easy to work with. And we like the result of it. So the consistency that it brings to the table and allows our engineers to work with is really key. So I think by focusing on like the client first stuff, the client facing stuff is something that's going to allow you to get the biggest kind of the biggest bang for your buck early because the clients see it and feel it. And that's really what this is all about, right? Like we want a good experience for our clients. I think the other thing for us that we maybe didn't anticipate was we kind of hadn't thought through all the way like how this was going to impact our data and analytics. So we were kind of like, we didn't know what we were looking for necessarily, and we had to make some adjustments as we continue to see what that data looked like. So things like response time. Well, response time could be down significantly if it's a zero touch ticket. Like how do you measure response time on a zero touch ticket? So we just had to think about like, what do we want that to look like for us? How are we going to present that to clients? Do you count that in like the human response tickets? Because sometimes you go and put that data in front of a client and they're like, that is not our experience, right? Like that doesn't align with our experience. So thinking about the data from the client's perspective and then how you want to talk about it, I think is really key. And we would have maybe done that a little bit differently if we had to do it again. But I think really like start by starting, like you kind of have to get into it, know your business well enough to know where the big impact is going to be, know what you're good at, what you're not good at, and start with the stuff you're not good at. And that was key for us.
It's really interesting insights around the data piece. That's one, like we obviously see ourselves and any sort of automation and AI as disruptive in some sort of sense for what we've previously done in the past. And we've typically taken the, I guess, mindset that we're disrupting the help desk. We're doing tickets a little bit different. We're using AI and automation to get them done. But we haven't really thought about the impact on the client data perspective. And as like when I was running the sales and the account management team at our MSP, I remember we'd have the QBRs, we'd generate the reports, show them all the tickets that we did for you this last quarter. Look how good we are. And all the time that we spent on them, obviously. So yeah, having that sort of different mindset on how it's going to impact that piece, I think is a really interesting one. And I think it comes back to what you were saying earlier around what do clients really care about? They care that their networks are up, their tickets are resolved, and we're moving forward with a great technology strategy. And if we can position ourselves as MSPs as that technologist, that strategic advisor with technology, as opposed to the people that are fixing, the computers in the back end, I think you're really going to differentiate yourself in market, which is great.
Yeah, and I think that's right. But as you talk about the data piece, right? Like if one of the things you're talking about from a value perspective is this is how much time we spent on your account, like you have to think before you roll out Pia, how am I going to reframe value, right? Like, because this is not about how much time I spent. This is about like how quickly we were able to help you, how easy it is for us now to be consistent in our resolutions, and our new user setups are consistent, our terminations are consistent, and build value into consistency, not in time spent. So I think like that's why the data piece is so important to like think through, because depending on what those conversations look like and how you're having them with clients, you just may need to reframe value a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's certainly another challenge or problem that comes off the back of this, but I think it's a good problem to have, right?
Oh, I think and if you're not doing it because of this, like you should be doing it anyways, right? Because like we talked about at the very beginning, like we can't scale on look how much time I'm spending on you. Like that, there's a bigger business problem on the front end with that. So, but I think sometimes those conversations with clients just you have to think about like things differently, right? Like one of the things that we did is we talked about for next year talking about tickets as interruptions rather than tickets, because like everybody wants less interruptions in their day, but for a really long time in the MSP world, we've talked about the number of tickets and like, oh, look how many problems we solved for you. But like really the goal is to drive that number down, right? We all want less interruptions in our day. We don't want more tickets. We want less tickets. But we've created value for our clients in solving tickets. So now we have to reframe that conversation and say, the absence of tickets or the absence of interruptions is really a win for all of us. That makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I believe Quinn's got a question.
Yeah, Quentin needed to have another one. This is actually super, super important that I wanted all of the analysts to be able to see and take back to their opcos, because one of the biggest questions that we get whenever we are speaking to a new prospective partner is how long is it going to take my team to become familiar with the product, feel ramped up and ready to rock and roll with that? What was the experience like on your side of Accellis, Abby?
So some were faster than others, I think, which is always the case. Our rapid response team, who is really on like the front lines for us, they were early adopters. They became familiar with it really quickly. They like it, and it like exists largely in ConnectWise or whatever product you're using, I guess. So it wasn't like they had to go exist elsewhere like this, it just was already kind of built into what they were doing. And that part was really easy. I think it took a little bit longer not to become familiar with the product, but to trust it. Again, like trust is a funny thing because some people like trust immediately and they're good to go, and others it's like a little bit of a slower process. But I think we're there now. We're 6 months in. We're seeing good adoption. We look to see. So we did. We set some of our ConnectWise statuses to help us know when Pia is being used and when AI is being used, so we can see kind of based on statuses who's using them and who's not. And Justin, who's our internal champion, has sat down with folks who've been a little slower to trust and kind of worked through whatever may be driving that, kind of one-on-one. So it's not instantaneous, but it's a definite, you'll get there for sure.
Excellent. All right. The last piece here I wanted to talk about was the next step for you and the team in this journey, and basically going beyond the ticket. So we talked about how internally Pia can help be that max suit for the technicians and get them to go through their day consistently with doing more tickets per technician per day. But a real game changer here at Pia was the development of Pia Smart Forms. And that's where we're able to extend the automation to the end user of the MSP and allow them, either the HR representative or even, managers and end users, to go and submit tickets via a self-service portal, or I know you're integrating it with Thread as well. So there's a number of ways we can do this, but effectively we're giving the power of automation and AI to your end users. I'd love to get your experience on this, the feedback from your clients, and then the technicians as well, seeing those tickets come through either fully completed or completed to the majority of it where they just have to click a couple of buttons. Abby.
Yeah, Justin loves watching a touch ticket go all the way through, right? Like, there's something really cool about the fact that a client just got their problem resolved without having to wait on us, or without us having to get involved. So those are really cool to see when they work and they go through. I think our clients have had good feedback on the smart forms. They really like how easy it is. It walks you through it. There's very little question to like what needs to be entered, how it's going to work. We've had great feedback there. And I think as with anything, like now we wanted to do more, right? Like, so it's like, oh, what's the next step of this for us? And so we're kind of always looking to the future, like what can we do next? So, we mentioned we implemented Threads at a kind of very similar time as Pia, and are working on them together. So, like we see a world where Threads the front end, and that Pia Smart Form sits in the back end and is gathering all the correct data, so that automation runs and runs well, because the client is chatting and able to provide us with all the information we need, and then we can run with it. So I think there's so much to do in this space. There's so many opportunities. There's so many things that can really be disruptive in the traditional MSP model, just to allow us to do more with really good people. And that's really what we're most excited for. I think, James, you and I talked a little bit yesterday, we're even leaning into the fact more that, with some of the time this is giving us back, we're leaning into those white glove services, right? So whether that be an at-risk client or a new client, we're able to take some of that time and say, okay, this wouldn't normally be an on-site visit, but we're going to send a client or engineer on site because we have the capacity to do that now. And we know that's going to really play well to the client experience here. Things like that maybe, 6 months ago, we're not doing, just because we're in the grind of getting all the tickets done.
Yeah, I think that's a really crucial point to touch on, because I know you guys are very much a client-centric MSP, and you value that intimacy with the client experience. And by freeing up time, a lot of people see this as, we're freeing up time, or we're reducing headcount, or we're growing without putting bodies on the desk. All of that can be true, but we're seeing really successful and client-centric MSPs like yourself, using that time that gets freed up to then go and do the on-site visits, like you said, doing the projects that are in the backlog, fulfilling, the internal staff's requirements as well, by bringing them up the ranks and getting them doing things that they wouldn't usually be doing. So I love that you guys are taking that approach as well.
Yeah, and I think, as AI and automation kind of floods people's worlds in all different areas, and not just MSP, but there is like a little bit of a pull too to maintain those relationships. So we really feel like, because we're leaning into this, it gives us the opportunity to also lean into the human touch part, which feels almost like they should counter one another, but I think there's a world where they actually live very nicely together.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think I used the example yesterday around, booking a plane ticket. When was the last time we rang up, and did that? If you can do it yourself and get that straight on your iPhone, we're very much satisfied as a client. Okay, so I want to pause there and get some input from the group that we're here with today, and basically open it up and see if there's some questions that we can take and learn a little bit more from yourself, Abby. What I will do before we jump in, I know we're talking a little bit about ROI and what it meant to yourself, Abby. One thing that we can offer to Lyra opcos to see how this is going to impact your own business is we could do an exercise, what's called ticket analysis. From the ticketing system, typically 1 to 3 months worth of tickets, we will run that through our machine learning and AI model. And then Pia is going to generate a report for us and say, you know, you did 5,000 tickets. Pia's automations that are out of the box could have helped you automate 2,000 of them. And here's the amount of time that we should have saved. And you know, if we're anything like yourself, Abby, you know, we're saving between 35-40% or 30 to 45%. Is a phenomenal result. So I want to extend that offer out to the wider group as something to take away as a next step. On that note, we'll throw it over to the team and see if there are any questions. Thanks, Jim.
Yeah. Thank you, James. Actually, one of our friends, John here, he actually just popped up a new question. Are we prepared for this here on this session? Because he'd like to see, what does the smart forms look like to the end users? Is there something that we could pull up on this session, or should we, schedule some time afterward?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we don't have that ready to go on this session. What I would encourage you to do is get in touch with your analyst. We can book a demo, take you through that one-on-one. That's part of as a next step. I will also reference our YouTube channel. So Pia's YouTube channel has a number of videos on this, demos, you can see insights and also client experiences. But I guess the easiest way, John, is to book a one-on-one demo and we can take you through that.
I did just put this one into the chat. If you guys would like a really quick look, one of my favorite videos that I love to share with people that I meet at the different trade shows, if we have a conversation on LinkedIn, we have a light version of our demo called Pia AI Desk in 3 minutes. It gives you the super 10,000 foot high level overview of what Pia looks like. You actually will see what the smart forms look like really quickly at probably like 3/4 of the way through. And it kind of gives you a good little teaser, kind of like a movie trailer. Okay, this looks cool. This looks cool. Let's actually book a demo because this was interesting to me. So if you guys want to take a look in the chat, I just put that link there. Click it, bookmark it. Really interesting stuff.
Excellent. One thing I will just add on to that as well, John, is you have the ability to completely white label that. So you won't see Pia's branding or logos or color scheme. So Abby, I don't know if you want to share that experience for John.
Yeah, that part I think was super easy. We've done the white label, and I think Justin's handled all of that for us, and easy, super simple.
Great.
And I don't know, like, as far as like getting our customers to use smart forms, we just set up like a quick 15-minute kind of demo with each client and introduce them to smart forms. Justin, who's our Pia champion internally, he does that with the client as an opportunity to kind of introduce the technology and talk through the benefits and why this is great for them and not just for us. And we've been really successful with that, but it's not like a huge time commit to get the clients to use it either, which I think is important.
All right. Is anybody else around? I know that a few of you guys have joined and we're off camera, but I wonder if anybody have any other questions, anything really quickly, like to jump in the chat, we can answer here.
Cool. Well, we might take that as silence is golden, and we've covered off on everything for the team. I do want to just acknowledge everyone's time again today, and thank you for joining. As a next step, we will be sending this recording out, like I said, and we will be offering a live demo for anyone that's interested, go a deeper dive into the technology. Thanks to all the analysts and MSPs that jumped on today. Special thanks, Abby, to yourself for joining us and sharing your experience. If you want to send up some words. sorry, Abby, I put you on the spot there. Did you want to just end with some final words?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I just, and we're happy to answer any questions too. So, if anybody wants to spend some time with Justin, he's always happy to jump on a call too, and he can kind of speak through, or even show some of what we have set up if that's helpful. So, any way we can be of help, let us know. But I think, the industry's headed this way, so we have to embrace it, right? We all have to embrace that we need to figure out how we're using automation. And, I think there's a part of it that it's just table stakes now, right? Like we got to be doing it. And so no matter what your strategy is, it has to be intentional, and we have to be moving forward with it.
Perfect. Well, we really appreciate you sharing your insights and your story, Abby. Team, look forward to talking to you soon. Thanks again for joining, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Guys.